Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
I'm Colin.
And I'm the other Josh.
and this is where you talk all things Star Wars, all things Star Wars Celebration Europe, and all things The Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 23, The Spies. So, we're back from London. Colin is just off the plane, so
Yeah.
big, big props to him for doing a podcast right now. He just stepped off. And of course, Josh, as always, is joining us whenever he can. And yeah, I've been back since yesterday. The
Yeah.
plane flight back was actually really, really nice. I had a whole row to myself. I slept. I could lay down. I slept like 6 separate times during that 9-hour flight back to Dallas. And then from Dallas, it took 30 minutes of a flight to get back to Austin. And yeah, we're all back now at home. Celebration was awesome. Colin, what were your highlights, right quick?
Oh man. Okay. Um honestly, the biggest worry for me is the panels, but we got into the I got into the big main three panels. There were five major panels where you had to win the ladder system in. Um Sometimes you have to be in the right place at the right time. That's the best way to say it. And I got into Ahsoka, and then we were in standby for the Bad Batch, which I wasn't expecting them to show footage for season 3, but that was cool. And don't worry, we'll eventually do a breakdown trailer of that because they showed it twice, and I made sure that I caught everything. And there's a lot that a lot of people aren't talking about, so I'll definitely break that down.
I was able to, from the comfort of my own home back in the States, watch a little snippet of the trailer that got leaked, and I was floored that they even had. I mean, even if that's the only things that they have finished in the season,
Yeah.
like they were like, let's finish off these scenes for the trailer for Celebration. The fact that they already have that much, they have that work set out, they know where it's going. Obviously, due for how much prep was done in season 2, I was amazingly surprised at that.
Yeah. And I also want to compliment Colin on Instagram. He did a fantastic job at Celebration, breaking the news first on Instagram. We've been telling everyone, follow us on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. It's Colin really that runs the show, and
Thanks, man.
he really stepped his game up and he was telling me I'm about to drop this thing right as they announced it because we were getting a little bit of leakage here and there, and a little bit of like inside info, and we're like, okay, well, we need to like really prepare. And Colin was on top of it. Thank you so much, Colin. You did wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I loved it. And also, before we get any further, we do want to thank our awesome patrons. On the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Sean Greathouse, and Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Maya Morris, Texas Vader 76. And on the black tier, we actually got to meet a black tier patron in London. It was pretty cool. Maka, Tautala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, and Liam McCallion. Evan, we got to meet, and we talked about the meeting a little bit last night on the pre-show, and it was so cool. He flew down. He doesn't live in the UK, but he flew from where he lived, and he went to Celebration for a day. I think he spent the rest of the time in London with his girl, and we met both of them, and it was so awesome to hand him stuff in person because we've sent him stuff in the mail, and he lives so far away. Some of the stuff hasn't reached him. Some of the stuff accidentally got sent to Korea, then got sent to him. He's not Korean. That's on the other side of the world from him. But yeah, it was so awesome to meet him, and I convinced him to go to Celebration next time it's held in the States, and we would kind of show him around in the States. But we got the shocking news that the next Celebration in 2025 will be in Japan. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on that?
I've only been to one Celebration ever, and that was in 2022. Got to see meet and make a bunch of friends in Anaheim. So for me, I'm used to huge breaks in whenever I go to Celebration, because the first one I went to, I was like 20 years old. Like it's been 20 years. I'm so incredibly excited for all the fans of Star Wars on the eastern side of the world, who all the trips that us Westerners are complaining about if they choose to go to Celebration, they do that every year. Like it's a double bladed sword, and they have an amazing opportunity to make a very, very good celebration over there and celebrate the fans of Star Wars that are over there, especially with the emergence of Visions kind of encompassing Eastern animation styles in how Star Wars is presented, giving them that opportunity. But also the selfish side of me, we get either Revenge of the Sith or something A New Hope in like anniversary time.
Yeah.
It is. So we get that.
I know that's going to be a big celebration, especially for me, because
Yeah,
that's
50 of A New Hope. That's it. 50 of A New Hope. We'll likely get that in 27.
The 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith is in 2025.
That's right.
That's a big year for people of the Clone Wars and fans of the prequels. And Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite films of all time, like just in general. So I'm very, very excited for that. But yeah, no, I think Celebration 2025 is going to be great. I'm excited for all the costumes. There's going to be a lot of great costumes over there, bro.
Costumes, and also the difference in costume style. Like it's interesting to see, like, you know, a costume maker from anywhere around the world. You see like similar techniques and similar processes no matter where you are. So I'm really interested to see how that costume is. Did we ever have a cosplay contest in Europe? Because I never saw a winner for that.
I'm guessing it was the person that did the Nexu costume.
No,
I could be mistaken.
She won last year with the Geonosian.
So it wasn't her.
We took pics with her, and she apparently got noticed enough that she was backstage she had a crew pass, and she was doing that with Celebration. So I don't think she would have been able to do the contest as that.
Then I don't know.
But yeah, no. I mean, also Marietta, congrats to her for the Geonosian last year, the Nexu this year. You do amazing work. It was wonderful meeting you in 22. But I don't know, like, if anyone won it. I never saw anything. And if they didn't have a cosplay contest at all, that's extremely interesting to me.
I think they did because I saw it on the schedule.
Okay, let me see.
I definitely saw it on the schedule. One other highlight of Celebration was the Lucasfilm panel, because that panel was 2 hours long. Like and it flew by. There's just to let you all know, there's a lot just to unpack from that one picture that David just posted. There's something that no one's really talking about, and I'm going to be posting that tomorrow morning because it's kind of crazy that they're pulling stuff from Legends, and they're slowly pulling stuff from, that we haven't talked about and the new canon in a while. But that whole panel was 2 hours long. We saw a trailer for Acolyte. We saw a trailer for Skeleton Crew. We saw a trailer for Andor Season 2. We saw so much.
You guys got a lot. And I was the horrible lat views of it.
Well,
people's phones.
I was that one nerd in the crowd that didn't have my phone out and ready. I was the nerd that had the notepad out, and I was writing notes.
And that's what you should have. You shouldn't be recording it. But to those that did, thank you.
Yeah, Colin took down some great notes.
Yeah. Something else as well is like the security was very, very tight in the last day, because the other Josh and I were in the Bad Batch room, and they were kind of semi yelling at people saying you can only record 1 minute at a time, and it's because the look of the full out look of Thrawn got leaked. Like that whole look of Thrawn got leaked. That whole trailer got leaked. Mm-hmm. And it's been passed around so much that they can't stop it. But we know what he officially looked like outside of Celebration. Now, because someone leaked it and they were trying to be on top of it. But man, security on that last day were like just so tight and just walking down every aisle. And if someone even pulled out their phone to see what time it was, they were trying to light in their face. Like it was that intense. And I was like, dang.
At least we didn't have another Kenobi situation happen.
Oh yeah.
Because they, correct me if I'm wrong, people who were at the Mandalorian panel got to see this episode during Celebration.
Yes, we saw. David didn't stay for it.
Wristband though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I still got mine. which that experience is great, and I love those type of screenings because you get to watch it in a big crowd of people, and that honestly was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Um, but I am, yeah, I enjoy the celebration. It's not on the top of my list. I think 2019 and 2017 will always be my favorite. I loved last year's. That was great. But just Chicago was just when Star Wars was getting into that where they were kind of rebranding themselves with Disney Plus, and they were getting ready, and we saw the stuff for this first season of Mandalorian, and no one really knew what to expect, and the hype for it was just so real. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did want to give before I go into the breakdown, I want to give a shout out to all Star Wars, Star Wars Exchange, Darth Deacon, Star Wars Dude, all of those fact people, because all of them weren't there, but they were on top of the news like that, and that's real talent. So shout out to them for just being on top of everything the entire weekend. But yeah, all right, let's get into the news.
All right. Yeah. So Mandalorian season 3, episode 7, chapter 23, The Spies. Interestingly, plural, which we can get into when we talk about overall reviews at the end. But this episode starts off with a reintroduction to Coruscant. And it's a very different Coruscant than we've seen for the entirety of this show. And for a long time, we see it almost seems like a rainy atmosphere, Coruscant. So we have a very Seven or the Batman vibe with the rain, and then the neon lights is the only thing you can see flickering in the background, and it really gives a kind of darker, gritty feel. I was very interested if we were going to see level 1313, if that's where we were going with this, or if this is trying to be an allusion to 1313, which of course is amazing, absolutely amazing. And we see an Imperial character, I forget her name. I feel so sorry.
Kane.
We see her go
Yeah.
back into an alley and meet an Imperial probe droid. A very bright-eyed Imperial probe droid with a red lens, which follows along with how IG-11 earlier in the season, where we had the white eyes showing the good IG and then the red for the bad IG, even though in season 1 he was always red, even good or bad. I mean, this kind of droid denotation of very bright colored eyes in this show. I mean, it's almost holding a precedent. I kind of hope not, but I like how it distinguishes the droid in this dark alley shot. So it's not just a black outline of a probe droid. How did you guys like the reintroduction of the probe droid? How this kind of the episode opened? How it opened with spies jumping right into Kane being a spy on Coruscant within the New Republic.
I would like to point out the fact that I think we saw a probe droid every single day at Celebration because they had the droid builders area, and someone was like having it just go through the show floor, and when there's a big crowd of people, you can't see the base of it, so it actually looked like it was like hovering, and it was so cool to see. But yeah, no, I loved seeing the probe droid come back. I don't think people really realize how large a probe droid actually is.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what kind of threw people off, because even when like we saw the 8 minutes of footage before we saw the full thing, I remember people were like, "Well, that looks kind of big," and in my mind, it's like it's never changed the size, but you never seen someone so close to it, I guess, on screen before.
Yeah. Almost only those that went to Celebration and had that probe droid roaming around, like, no, holy cow, that thing is actually huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, at the Lucasfilm showcase, Colin and I got to see the first 6 minutes of this episode during the showcase.
Okay.
But it was it was like 5 o'clock that day. The panel was at 11 a.m. So they said come back at 5 o'clock to watch the entire episode, which is what Colin and Josh did. But yeah, this was very cool, very cinematic, very Blade Runner-esque. And to me, it makes sense fantasy-wise to bring in the big old probe droid, because it's like, where would that thing be hiding? It's so huge, like you said, but it's on Coruscant, a New Republic setting. So
Yeah, no, Kane's trench coat, very Blade Runner. I saw the kind of the flaps and I was like, is this another leather jacket? After like all the leather jacket hype we've been getting, which big fan. I wear leather jackets all the time. But
Nice.
no, the trench coat was very Blade Runner, very interesting. And we saw the first physical appearance of Moff Gideon within a hologram, talking to Kane, kind of double checking up on her, how her progress is going. And he has slightly different armor. I noticed that almost right away. I was looking at the Moff Gideon CRL just last week, looking at like the small differences in season 1 to 2, and I saw this. I was like, that's almost a big departure in what we've seen. There's a lot of changes that still is a similar just design philosophy. One question I really want to ask, because I know I've been kind of juggling the question in my mind all day, is it really seems like a lot of the finale of season 2's kind of just been stepped over. Moff Gideon's back to being with the Empire is no longer captured. We never got that, discussion on screen. Grogu's almost immediately back with Din. It seemed like that kind of finale lost a little bit of something, but I don't know if that's just me. How do you guys think about Gideon being back in the Imperial fray so soon?
Well, that's the big thing happening online, is that a lot of people's reactions are that the way this episode ended and the way this episode was, we didn't deserve it because of the lead up to it wasn't as hype as it could have been. And people have been saying because of the small side mission episodes and they haven't been really focusing on the plot, what happens at the end of this, it doesn't feel as much of a loss because there wasn't enough build up for it, which I think is a completely wrong statement. I think that this whole show, this whole season was to build the larger world of the Mandoverse, and we get that with the pirate. His name's Vane, right? Yeah, Vane.
Yep.
He leaves the whole pirate fight and a couple episodes back, and we know that he's going to be in Skeleton Crew. It's like, boom, there's your connection. You have the first episode of this season, and we see a bunch of Purgle, and it's like, okay, boom, Ahsoka, Ezra, boom, connection. And then you got this episode within the first 6 minutes, they end up, saying Thrawn. It's like, okay, that's our second mention. We're slowly getting to the bigger story. And I think this, season had to do that. And I think people are just so used to a very plot driven story, and it doesn't always need to be. And I think something else that a lot of people aren't talking about is that the new movie that Dave Filoni is working on isn't coming out until 2026. Or
I thought it said 6 to 7 years from now is when it's coming out, which would be like 30.
Well, so it honestly makes from the David, help me out because I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
so there was just a report like hours ago that we're going to get a 2025 film, which is probably going to be the Daisy Ridley led film with the directors Obey Genoa, and then the next year, which is surprising because that's an Avatar year, we're going to get the Filoni directed climactic event that we were kind of promised during that Investor Day call via Kathleen Kennedy. So it looks like they're not going to skip a year, and we've been talking about on a podcast forever now. We should have a Star Wars film every year, so maybe 2025 is going to be that jump off point where they'll just start giving us a film every year. They have the resources, they have the people that want to make Star Wars. Just do it. It might be kind of like a beta type test to just kind of like feel out, like, are we going to make enough money if we do release a film every year? I think they can. I think they could have been doing that, but it seems like they're going to test the waters here with that.
I'm speaking of their beta testing. I'm very worried with the continued perception that Lucasfilm seems to have with Solo's performance. Solo comments came up pretty recently of them being like, "Oh, well, that didn't work because of this," and it's like, no, that's not it. It is which I love that story. I love those characters. And Don Glover recently had an interview where he was like, "I'm just we're in talks right now. I'm waiting for a story to be really good where I want to do it because I'm not going to do something that's just a paycheck, which to me is very wonderful news. I'd love for the Solo story, the Solo show, if it happens to be something important and something that felt like it needed to be made rather than just a check. But yeah, no, I really think they can make those money doing movies year after year. And these 3 films that they've discussed, if they are year after year, it's going to be the first time in a long, almost actually ever, that we won't have direct trilogy films going every 2 years during yearly movie releases.
Mm-hmm.
So that jumping is going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. To hop back to the episode, we have those references Colin was talking about. Even though it may be 10 seconds, it sets up this world even more. We see Gideon in some sort of imperial cave system where the walls aren't entirely walled off as beautiful, pristine, clean walls. So we know he's hidden somewhere. He's in a bunker, a safe house. He's underground, easily reinforcing that through visual cues. We have some new form of stormtrooper, which I thought were range troopers from Solo when I first saw them. Very similar kind of helmet profile. What were your guys' first thoughts seeing another form of the Imperial Stormtrooper appearing?
I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? Are those mechanical or are those just suits? That was my kind of question. And looking at the helmet style, it looks like this is the evolution to the Stormtrooper that we got in The Force Awakens.
Evolution of that, and also evolution almost went back in the visor cell to Phase 2 clone troopers. It had that Xennier T reappear.
Right. A nice little mix there. And of course, we're going to get hot toys and action figures. So hopefully we do see a lot of these guys.
Can we talk about something super funny though? I got some new Black Series figures, and one of them that I got on that Thursday right before like we went in to see the full episode was a Paz Vizsla Black Series action figure. Yep. And I watched it all the way through, and then I was like, man, this is just like the Lego. So yes, because as I was building it, we were watching the episode like of where it gets blown up, and I was like, it happened again.
I miss that ship so much.
Yeah,
so incredibly much. I feel like that ship was integral to the Mandalorian that I really just loved. But yeah, no, that was, we got the racial doors from Phantom Menace. Back.
That was interesting.
Different. We didn't see their generators, so we don't know if it has the same generator style, but we had those doors, lines and lines of them. I mean, if we have Mandalorians trying to storm this base in the next episode or next season, whenever it comes, it looks like every door they fight their way through, there's 2 more Imperial, whatever they are. At this point, we know they're Mandalorian super commandos, whatever you want to say, Mandalorian stormtroopers. 2 of them at every door opening. Incredibly daunting to try and fight your way through.
But yeah, we didn't know that they were Mandalorian stormtroopers
at the time.
Yet. Did you think that?
I saw them, and I was too focused on the clone visor. I was like, which in hindsight, clone visors are based on Mandalorians with the center T. But no, I was like, why on earth does he have a special stormtrooper unit that has clone visors on them? I was too distracted on that to even try and think about why they have mysterious things on their backs.
Yeah. Likewise.
Geez. And we have an Imperial meeting that has some amazing implications for the rise of the First Order. Especially the public internet concern when the First Order first started appearing. Like, how did this massive power amass with all these obvious resources for making ships and Starkiller Base and all these things? How did this just appear out of nowhere? And we see that it's not nowhere. These Imperial warlords are fighting as a unit, and they're very cognizant of we have to be cautious, as it says there, no sign of our true strength, or else the New Republic's going to realize we are working together. And and I was a huge fan of the costumes of each of these Imperial members, because each of them, although they're Imperial, have their own flair. We have some with Imperial pins on the center, some with sashes, Moff Gideon with armor and a cape. So although we know they're all working together as some hive of Imperials, there's still a very visible divide between all of them across the board.
Yeah.
And we got the appearance of a character from Legends coming back. Colin or David, either of you guys take away what this Imperial meeting was, the characters, because there's a lot to digest here.
Yeah. So the shot that David has on right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Thrawn's right-hand man, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I thought that was a great
Which is
tie-in.
Admiral Pelion,
Yeah.
I think. That's how you say it.
Yep. And then you had General Hux's dad, which we knew that he had a very strong start of the First Order. And not that many people know, but the whole reason that the Battle of Jakku happened was so that that they were trying to have a meeting like what they're having now, but in person, because they were trying to regroup. And then the New Republic found out, and then it went from there. So now you have scattered warlords across the galaxy, and they're in hiding, and they're waiting for Thrawn to make his his full out appearance, which sounds like we'll get that in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Which is super, super exciting. And Lars Mikkelsen is back as Thrawn in live action. I'm telling you, from the footage that we saw, it was fantastic. And when he entered the room, by the way, that was amazing. That was probably the biggest crowd pleaser that I've seen in a long time. And everyone just jumped out of their chairs, just like cheering and everything. I think we all kind of figured it was going to be him, but still, yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, I enjoyed the meeting. I thought that I think Moff Gideon just kind of owns every room that he walks in, like, because of it doesn't sound like he's in charge, but he just acts like he's in charge.
Oh, and Giancarlo Esposito is, I mean, as an actor, any scene that he's in, he completely steals. Absolutely love everything that he does. And he's such a kind guy off screen, and just a wonderful person. Yeah, he definitely takes control of the room, and he takes control of this room. We see Moff Gideon almost become a foil to Grand Admiral Thrawn, kind of getting tired of, I mean, if this has been going the whole time of the Imperial War from A New Hope to now, it's been almost 10 years of probably Pelion saying, oh, Grand Admiral Thrawn's going to return. He's going to be back. And Gideon's finally done with it. And even if it's just been these 5 years of the remnants, we see him kind of take over and say, you know what? I'm going to be what Grand Admiral Thrawn should be. I'm going to do the hard moves, take out the Mandalorians, trying to kind of reclaim their home planet, and why that's a bad thing. I need interceptors, bombers. I need 3 Praetorian guards. Name drop from characters from the sequels. We kind of see him step into that role as the Grand Admiral Thrawn surrogate.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to have a Gideon versus Thrawn eventually?
So I'm really curious of what's going to happen in this last episode. I don't think any of us know what's really going to happen. All of the footage that we've seen from the trailers has already happened. So Thrawn, I'm guessing Thrawn will make some type of appearance in this last episode. It makes sense. Because I don't think they would fully reveal like Thrawn and the actor and everything and the trailer before Ahsoka comes out. So like, I mean, it just makes sense for Thrawn to make some type of cameo in the last episode of this season, because then that's going to be like, okay, this is the Thanos of the Mandalorian verse. Like it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of hoping we don't see Thrawn. I I really like the Mandalorian when it's very inner focused on Din Djarin, the season 1 and 2. Season 1 especially. So I'm kind of hoping that they keep Thrawn to being an Ahsoka thing, keep kind of the shows, have them be interconnected a little bit, but still let them have their own room to breathe and, not feel so interconnected that I feel lost if I try and jump around. So I'm kind of hoping we don't see Thrawn, but that's just me.
Have you guys heard of the talk that Pedro Pascal might be leaving the show? And that's why we're getting more Katie Sackhoff and more kind of less emphasis on Din Djarin.
Well, there were those rumors back when season 2 came out
Yeah.
by Grace, whatever the heck her name is, when she's like, we're only getting 4 episodes of Din Djarin because Pedro Pascal has all these issues with keeping the helmet on. Which obviously that turned out to be very much not true. I mean, I personally can't see Pedro leaving the show. I think he incredibly enjoys it, at least from what we can see other actors. But his relationship with Filoni and Favreau and his understanding of the character and Grogu, I think he truly does enjoy it. I think the issue is less Pedro Pascal, and I think it is more they don't know what to do with Din Djarin as a character to progress this huge story when you also have Bo-Katan. Because we all thought Din was basically going to play the role Bo-Katan's now playing.
Yeah.
And, if I was writing this story myself, season 3 would be entirely different. But at the end of the day, season 4 or 5, Din would be playing the role Bo is now. And it'd be very odd having Bo be in the show if Din's kind of just doing what feels very Bo-ish. So I think we're seeing almost a quote-unquote rewrite or a redirect of Din from what we expected. But I personally don't see Pedro Pascal leaving the show.
Okay, fair enough.
They also can keep using his voice, like in the helmet. Like he can just go to a recording studio. He really doesn't need to show up anymore unless they need a scene where he takes off his helmet. If they do, I'm just gonna tell you real quick. For some reason, if they do kill him off in this final episode, do you know how weird the show would be going forward?
Exceptionally.
Yes.
So the Mandalorian namesake would be more Grogu, in my opinion.
Right. And for canon purposes as well, which I think we've talked about this a couple of times. If you go to Galaxy's Edge, you do see his helmet up on the wall. You do see Grogu's chainmail, and you see Mando's rifle up there. So at some point, Doc Ondar does get it, and it's like, okay, but when does that happen?
And to be fair, that is a living thing. I mean, it could always change. I mean, Mando's rifle was, if my recollection serves, blown up with the Razor Crest.
Correct.
And it's at Doc Ondar's. So, yeah, very interesting what they could be doing with Din. But we return to Navarro. After the credits roll only gives us the name of the spy for the episode, we see them rebuilding. We see bricks being placed in the floor. We see white protocol droids. We see people just kind of conglomerating back to the city that was ransacked by pirates not too recently, as once again a shadow rises from the bottom of the screen up to engulf these citizens. And once more, Greef Karga has to go outside to address an Imperial threat, but it's not. It's Mandalorians, and we see confirmation of the red painted mythosaur skull on the bottom of the Imperial light cruiser that we noticed not just but last week, which was amazing to see. And it's a sizable fleet. I love the idea that these Mandalorians were like, "Hey, we're going to Navarro. Let's pass directly over the city. Let's make sure they know that we are here."
Yeah, oh man, I am semi worried about the fleet. I know we're jumping ahead, but I'm semi worried about it. But I love the paint job. I love the paint job that they did underneath the actual cruiser. And my wife just watched the episode for the first time, and she was like, "How long do you think it took them? Could you imagine them just having a bunch of actual ropes and chairs, and them just kind of just."
Well, these are jetpacks, obviously. Right?
Well, yeah, I know, but I was just saying it's a joke. But yeah.
Do you think they flipped the ship upside down and painted it?
That'd be funny.
I I wonder if they painted the model like that, or if that was all done in post. I'm trying to get. I have a contact over at ILM that I haven't talked to in a long time, and trying to reach back out to him and see how he's doing and see if that was done physically. I'll let you guys know if we get an answer on that. But
Yeah, I would figure they repurposed or reprogrammed some of the Imperial droids on that ship and just
Owen
had them spray paint it like almost like 3D printer style.
just like a Boba Fett's paint booth in the back of Slave One.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Lots of Fang fighters. You know, the light cruiser. I don't know if we've seen Fang fighters do the wings rotate around the cockpit thing in Mandalorian that we've seen them do many a time in Clone Wars, which I kind of like personally. It makes them feel much more physical. The motions feel more real, easier to translate to the audience. But as they all land, we see Axe Woves in a new helmet and a bunch more Night Owl Mandalorians come to greet the Armorer's Child of the Watch sect. I mean, you can hear a pen drop.
Yeah. So how is Axe Woves' helmet different?
It's the Book of Boba Fett helmet mold instead of I think. Let me see Axe Wove season. Let me see if I can describe it really well.
Because I realized in season 2, in the episode The Heiress, he had that halo around his head.
Yep. So the paint job is all the same. In season 2, he had a very Boba Fett Empire Strikes Back, but his mandibles were kind of brought in. In this one, it is just a straight Boba Fett Return of the Jedi bust cast helmet with the Book of Boba Fett style of the visor and the Boba's helmet without the dent, basically. So
interesting.
Yeah, he got a lot of new stuff there. But yeah, I mean, it's the clash of blue versus all the colors of the rainbow, and you have them all take off their helmet, and you can see Bo be like, I wish they waited to do that.
Yeah.
You know, the little bit that these people know of each other they hate, and they're all brought aside by the Armorer. The Armorer stops. Probably would have been an inevitable huge clash between these two factions.
Yeah.
All right. Personality test. If you guys were one faction of Mandalorians, would it be the blue, or would you be you can do whatever the heck you want with your armor and have some Imperial stuff on you?
Oh, okay.
Would you like to remove your helmet or a Child of the Way?
I think I would like to remove my helmet.
Do you not want to walk away from everyone every time that you want to eat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think I would like to have that freedom just to be able to remove the helmet, and just walk around and be a mercenary. Not have to be in some type of strict religion. Yeah.
I think the other thing though is when you take the option of taking your helmet off in front of someone, that also adds to the level of intimidation. Because think about it. If Mando walked in that first episode that we saw him in season 1, and he walked into that pub and he beat the crap out of everyone, and then afterwards he took off the helmet, that to me would have felt like how in the Halo series of where Master Chief takes off his helmet.
When John Halo removed his helmet?
Yeah. So I love that. I love the level that they went on. I mean, I don't know if I would do it, but I think that the intimidation level is very high of not taking off your helmet. And when you take the helmet off, it's like, oh, okay. Like, it's just a person under there. But I think that's why people also loved Boba Fett, because that added to the mystery of the character.
Yeah.
And you had him very, he was very menacing walking around, and he didn't even play that big part of the movie. So I'm gonna say I would be a Child of the Watch.
Okay. If I could, I would be in the blue, remove my helmet, be able to hang out with people and the family and eat and whatever you have. But I would prefer being able to color my armor however I want, rather than this is the shades of blue we have allowed. That's what you can do. Maybe black and purple. But yeah, so we've done a lot of recording for 13 minutes of the episode, so I'm gonna try and speed up here. We jump ahead to Grief Karga coming up to Din, saying, "Welcome. Here's a bottle of probably some form of whiskey or rum or dark liquor." Saying it's all the way from Coruscant as a welcome gift, and then bringing Din to see the new form of IG-11, White Eyes and all, which is now a mech. He is now a different mode of transportation for Grogu. So Grogu now can say yes and no to whatever he wants. He has little buttons to say yes and no, and that is the extent, it seems, of Grogu's talking capabilities while in the mech. What did you guys think of seeing this repurposing of IG-11? Because the first time I saw IG come out, I was like, we never saw Din get the new memory thing to fix IG. So what's all this about? And then I saw, Babu Frick creature driving it, and I was like, okay. And then I connected the dots really late. And then Grief, being the grandpa getting the kid dangerous toys, is like, oh, let's see if he fits or not.
I remember the reaction from the audience, and they were all laughing. And I know it was for comedic purposes. How do we feel about the yes and no button that they installed in there? Because I know that's going to be a meme going forward for a long time.
Oh, it's such going to be a meme. I think it was good insert of humor that is always going to be funny. It's a kid with their first words, applying those first words to everything that they can use them for. And I mean, that's all it's relying on. It's relying on a universal factor. And so I think that's always going to be something funny.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. There was a leak that came out a long time ago that we would get Yoda in a mech type suit type thing. And it looks like it was accurate. Going from IG-11 naming convention to IG-12, essentially lobotomized IG-11, so and just turned him into just a drone, really. So yeah, it was cool to see that Grogu can now communicate with the yes and no buttons. Just hit those, and then he has the joysticks to control the arms, and that part of it doesn't seem technically accurate, but it's kind of the fantasy element of it. Yeah. Now he has like a suit, and now he can participate in full bodied activities and kind of hold his own in a way.
Yep, he can also steal fruit and food whenever he so pleases, making Din lose money very, very fast.
Yeah.
So we have a fun little vignette of him taking food from a vendor and then paying for it, taking more food from a vendor, then paying for it.
And then he picks up a Meluron.
Yep.
From Star Wars Rebels.
Yep. So it was a fun little vignette, and of course, Grogu's just spamming yes, yes, yes. He's so incredibly pleased that he can walk around with his dad now, which is just it's adorable. He kept pressing yes. I was like, am I going to get annoyed at this? And almost like answering myself, I was like, no, it's cute. I don't think I will.
Yeah.
I think they just wanted to have him get it out of his system, like first thing, and I think they did that, because then if you watch throughout the episode, like it's not as bad as it was. But and I think this is another great way to have IG-12. I was going to say IG-11, but now it's IG-12.
Yep.
To have him around as well, because I kind of felt like he was missed during the second season. So it's awesome to have him back.
It's a nice connection.
Yeah.
And then quick jump, we have the feast that the armor promised the new party of Mandalorians coming in. Of course, all of the helmeted Mandalorians are just kind of sitting around watching them eat because they can't remove their helmets to eat with them for the feast.
But can't they just simply like do the thing where they lift up the chin a little bit and stick food in?
It looked like they were cooking the beasts that attacked everyone in season 1, the giant beast. Yeah. So, I don't know how easy it is to get a fouling leg up under your helmet to
Oh,
not
jeez, man.
chomp down
Ram
on.
it in there.
I don't know. It's hard to eat those things during rent fair, and you're talking about doing that with a helmet on.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. So we see Bo give a rousing speech, trying to get talking about how they take back Mandalore, having a search party go down, isolate a perimeter at the Great Forge, and she asks for volunteers. First one's Din, then we get Casca, we get Axe, we get Paz Vizsla volunteering himself, and it almost kind of rouses and it just snowballs down from there. We see tons of Mandalorians from both sides come together in an agreement of just trying to take back Mandalore. So even if these groups even now have stark differences in how they see each other, there's one thing they can agree on, and it's the importance of their heritage and the importance of getting it back.
Yeah.
So we have the epic shot of Mandalorians re-entering space into the atmosphere of Mandalore. Fang fighters and the light cruiser, the Gazantes. I was heavily reminded of Clone Wars Season 7 with this shot. Even though it didn't have the Venator coming overhead with all the ships, it was still, seeing ships above this kind of greenish gray atmosphere was really refreshing to see once again. How did you guys think this was going to play out? Bo's plan of getting a party down. How do you see the rest of the episode panning out? Because there was still a lot to go at this point.
I didn't know what to expect, honestly. The way that it, where they end up landing on the planet and they find other Mandalorians, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, because Din was there before and they didn't encounter. But then again, you have the title of this episode called The Spies, so maybe
what that could be.
Yeah.
Also, every single time a ship goes through the storm clouds of Mandalore and the music just cuts, I get so tense. I'm expecting some lightning strike to take the ship out. I'm expecting something horrible to happen, which absolute props to the sound team for making us, the audience, just on edge as these people are trying to go through the storm to either escape Mandalore or get to the surface of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so good. The lights on the ship and how far they almost illuminate nothing at all. Absolutely amazing. Very well done. The dropship has Axe and Casca, and we also see the return of standard Death Watch painted armor. When we see Din kind of having a longing look at that person. We even have someone with the classic purple visor, with the purple around the visor, and the Death Watch logo, the Death Watch Shriek-Hawk making a return. That was, to me, that's a continuation of Din being almost a better surrogate between these two than Bo, having a very distinct connection between being rescued by almost seemingly to be Bo's sect with the Death Watch logo and everything else, and then growing up as a child of the Way. It's very, very interesting. Amazing visual storytelling with not a single word telling us what's going through his mind. We can almost feel it in ourselves just as much.
I think one prediction in my mind that I thought was going to happen when they're like, hey, we are going back to the planet in this episode was hoping to see the Mythosaur again. That was kind of a pipe dream of mine. I don't know if we will. If we end up seeing it in the last episode, and maybe that's their inspiration to be like, no, we can't leave Din Djarin behind. Like
I think that's going to be the cliffhanger at the end of the season. Is the second Rise of the Mythosaur, or the Rise of the Mythosaur coming back?
Yeah.
Personally, David, what do you think about the Mythosaur being in the season at all, or where do you think it could come back in?
I kind of feel like sometimes we make like the cliched predictions, like you said, maybe the Mythosaur is like a cliffhanger. I'm thinking maybe that the Mythosaur might be something that kind of gives inspiration in a very bleak moment in a battle with the Empire.
Okay.
And it kind of gathers everyone and raises, it just gives them that extra little boost of energy to kind of either stalemate or win whatever battle's going to take place. Feels like there's going to
Yeah.
be a big battle, a climactic type of battle. I would hate to get something to where it was like a cliffhanger and we got to wait another 2 years. I mean, for
Yeah.
season 4, that would be hard. But I mean, I'm thinking this next episode is going to be essentially a part 2 to this episode. So
Okay. Yeah. What stops the plot? I mean, that's an amazing idea. The only concern I have is I don't want it to feel like the Book of Boba Fett with the Rancor. I don't want someone to magically be able to write it immediately. I mean, to be fair, thinking about it, having Din be the writer of the Mythosaur, after he learned how to write the blurgs with Kuil, seeing how Kuil had such an important effect on him, Kuil immediately saying, your kind wrote the great Mythosaur. Having Din be the writer of the Mythosaur and having Bo be the lead, that'd be incredibly cool, I think, personally. But that's also very pipe dreamish.
And logically, I think when you think about it, maybe it's Grogu writing the Mythosaur because Grogu can like force speak to creatures. So that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
but if Din were writing it, though, I mean, imagine Bo-Katan's character thinking, this guy had the Darksaber, now he's got a Mythosaur.
Now like, what's next? Yeah. Super weird thing appears on the horizon, starts coming towards them, and we learn that it is 3 Mandalorians in extremely tattered armor, broken down, enough ragged cloths to cover a dorm bed each. And they say they bear the symbol of the Night Owls, and they are a group of 3 lone Mandalorians who survived the Purge and have survived on land ever since. Frankly, I don't trust these guys farther than I could throw them, which isn't very far because they probably weigh a lot because Beskar. What was your guys' initial thoughts seeing not only a skiff, ship, however you want to call it, roaming around on the glassed wasteland that is Mandalore, but seeing 3 Mandalorians that apparently have survived on the planet since the Purge?
It felt very cinematic, and I think it's not just those 3 Mandalorians in the ship. I think there was more on it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But I remember them like kind of pulling up, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then they kind of use that as like an actual their way of doing a type of boat, like in Star Wars, where it's not on water and it's not like a some type of scarif speeder or anything. It's just it's just there on the glass of what's left on the planet,
taking the wind. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love that concept. I thought that was really cool, and seeing them, as not really, pirates or anything, which I was really hoping that they weren't going to be like that, but they are just surviving. I think that's awesome to see that there are Mandalorians that survived the Purge.
Yeah, and Mandalorian pirates is a great way to put it. They felt so piratey, especially in how they're like, to the Forge! It felt like I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean again.
Yeah, that also showed us that the people of Mandalore are hard to break, and they are a very strong people. And the fact that there were survivors honestly did not surprise me. Yep. I was surprised when we didn't see any in that, and like in the second episode of this season of when Din actually comes to the planet for the first time. But
yeah, it did surprise me a little bit because I thought Mandalore was totally just uninhabitable as far as like everyone's thinking and everyone left. But it feels like these guys maybe kind of stay thinking that they were making like a sacrificing their lives, and then they didn't die, and then they were like, well, maybe there's a religious aspect to that, possibly.
But trying to find something else to fight for.
Yeah. They just kind of it reminds me of stuff in history too, where people stayed even though they knew that they were probably not going to make it, and it's all kind of coming together with Bo-Katan returning and their statement, we knew you would return and not forsake us, and that was pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. We get more details on the Purge. We see Bo-Katan say that she did try and surrender. We get more details as to how the Darksaber went to Moff Gideon. We get a little more details of the Second Purge, how she attempted to surrender, and it was all for naught. Moff Gideon lied, stole the Darksaber, bombed every surface twice over, turned it to glass. Um, and we got a scene that I think we should have gotten when Din gave Bo the Darksaber to kind of make that moment feel more important rather than just our heroine and hero in broad daylight in a plain field. We learned why Din follows Bo, and we kind of got a difference to Bo, seeing that there are people who follow her not because she wields the Darksaber, not because her family led Mandalore, but because of her character, because of how she holds herself, her code of honor, all of those things that she really has profusely shown to doubt herself in over the years and over all the different shows Bo's been in.
Yeah, the character of Bo-Katan is, I think, as we go along in live action, people are learning that, wow, this is a true leader, and she's had this very tragic past. If you watch the animation, you know what happened in the past, and that she really is, Darksaber, Mythosaur or not, the kind of unquestioned leader person that should be leading. She has honor. I mean, she's still trying to have the people of Mandalore stand for something and be with her people. And I think all the choices they've made with Bo-Katan have been really great. I think going into the season, we thought maybe she was going to be the nemesis to Din, but I think the choices that they're making now are the most appropriate, and for me, it's working, totally working.
Yeah, agreed. I think the choices they're making for Bo are really well done. I do think that Bo is kind of, as a character, quote unquote, hijacking the show from being a Din focused show, which I really loved it being a Din focused show. But also, the Din Djarin we have now is not the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett Din Djarin we had in season 1. It's a very different character, and of course, character dynamics change. So I think the way they're going about it is well done for the characters they have and established well enough to have this character who thinks her leadership has been earned by relics rather than what she's done herself.
Right. Rather than her actual character. Yeah.
Yeah. And then confirming that it's her character, that no one that he's lived with for his entire life cares about the glowing Darksaber. They don't care about that sword. They don't care about that stick. He didn't care about it. It wasn't important to him. But it's important to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Din says, it means absolutely nothing. But they're following her. All of them are following Bo because what she's showing them.
Right.
And I think that was incredibly important for Bo to hear. And I do wish that we got it earlier. Because I think it would have made the handoff of the Darksaber more important, felt more important at the time. I felt it would have given a bit more flesh to the earlier parts of this season, which, in my opinion, felt very much like moving chess. I've said this before, moving chess pieces to the final goal, but they don't kind of care how they go about there. But I digress. We get that amazing moment. We see all these wounded Mandalorians on this skiff. I mean, obviously they haven't had great medical capabilities skimming around on the surface of Mandalore for year after year after year. And the armor very easily gets convinced to return to the fleet and not see the great forge that she so loved and talked about on end earlier in the series. What are your thoughts on that, Dave? Is that a little questionable?
Yeah, that does feel like something very convenient for her to leave what she could have possibly known, and maybe possibly related to the title of this particular episode, and get out of there because it was going to be a huge massacre / firefight with the new Beskar cladded troopers. So yeah, she's looking pretty sus right now.
Armor, absolutely. I mean, if she turns out to be Rook cast, someone we've seen before, if she turns out to be a different character, because the only horned Mandalorian helmet we also know of is worn by, spoilers, Moff Gideon later in the episode. I mean, as someone who has worked on the armor costume and seen a lot of her stuff and scoured over it, I like the design of the character. I like the idea of the character. But I think it'd work very well for her to be the spy, the person working from the inside, and has a connection to the Empire.
So here's my question. Do we remember? So in the Clone Wars, and then also in the sons, the son of Dathomir,
Okay.
there was the girl. There was the girl Mandalorian that served with Gar Saxon, right?
Yep, that's Rookcast.
Okay. Do we
Yep.
know what happened to her?
No, we do not. That's people have been saying that it might be Rookcast ever since season 1.
Okay.
Because the last time we saw her was the Siege of Mandalore when she was told to go.
Yeah.
You could leave.
Yep.
And Rookcast was also, she was a character back in Legends, and she was also a core inspiration for the character of Sabine Wren back when she was first created, or at least the Legends incarnation of Rookcast. So, as for what comes of Rook in the future, is interesting if it even is Rook in the future. But the armor's disappearance and vacancy of the search party was definitely very surprising. And then we got what I thought was going to be the Mythosaur Rising. You know, the tectonic plates shifting of rock and crystalline glass. Oh, wait. Before that happened, sorry, quick backslide. We see Axe and Paz playing some form of a chess or board game and argue over the rules. And instead of learn about what each other's rules are, Paz is like, "Oh, you're gonna have to fight me for it. If I can move my chess piece over 2 to the left, you're gonna have to fight me with the vibro blades."
Yeah. I thought this was interesting, and I loved how they put Axe versus Vizsla. I think it's interesting that Bo and Vizsla didn't really have that much to say. Yeah, nice. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it felt very much like a pool. Whenever you play pool with someone, everyone has different rules on, like, you know, if you don't hit a ball, is that just, you know, do you play where it lies, or is that a ball in hand, or you've all the different rules of pool where, you know, if you scratch, where does it go? Is it ball in hand? Does it stay within the kitchen? So kind of got a little bit of that feeling of, you know, a very popular game with a lot of people where homebrew rules can often be a clashing point. And then little baby Grogu, now able to stick his arms out, is the only person on the entire ship willing to say, no, stop fighting.
Yeah.
Stop warring. It was almost a connection of stop warring between these two factions. You know, it's the first time that Grogu really can, I mean, yes, he has the Force, but can physically stand in. And as a child, a curious, inviting child who doesn't want people to fight, say no. Be the peacekeeper that Luke taught him to be. Really like that. Really like that character development in Grogu.
Yeah.
Yeah, that moment, and then Bo informing Din that no, we can't interfere. Grogu's the only one that could have stopped this, and it happened. And it shows kind of the power, and just him using the suit for this purpose. I thought it was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah. And then Bo's, you taught your apprentice well. And Din's like, I didn't teach him that. I would have let them fight to the death.
Yeah.
I didn't care what happened to those two. But yeah, so the armor makes it through the storm clouds, nail-bitingly so. The music was so dead during this. I almost for sure thought that her full of wounded soldiers was going to get struck by lightning. And then, of course, we get back to where we were discussing. We have a
Almost
giant...
looks like Godzilla rise up.
Yeah.
A giant creature rise up and has a giant spike tail. And
yes, that definitely reminded me of a dinosaur.
Yeah,
for sure. Because I saw that, I was like, all right, okay.
Just Randy Orton RKO'd that ship out of nowhere.
And there were a lot more Mandalorians on the ship than I thought there were because of at first it looked like a clown car because there were so many Mandalorians just coming like off the ship. I was like, how
Yeah,
many were on there?
well, 'cause
Dang.
there was the full table
Yeah.
of people eating, and then almost immediately after that, where the table was now almost completely full of bodies that needed to be taken up by the armor, and then it was full of people watching them play chess, and then that was full of people leaving. Yeah,
Well,
clowns
I
flying.
mean, were some of them down below deck or something? I mean, that
All those scenes happened above on
Yeah.
top deck, on the poop deck. So
there were a lot of people on that ship.
there were. So we see a couple Mandalorians die in this, but a lot of them are able to escape, and they decide to go down below. It's the safest place from this giant creature that originated from down below, but obviously being on the surface isn't going to keep them alive for long. And as they go down, almost immediately they find the Great Forge.
To the forge.
Yep, in ruins, in disarray. We see Axe, again,
Just like the Hobbit.
they were there. And we hear jetpacks. I first heard this and I didn't know what to think. I didn't think about Imperials. I was like, jetpacks, is it like the rest of everyone being here? But no, we get the answer to our Beskar alloy fragments from earlier in the season. We get an answer to why Moff Gideon was so against having Mandalorians take back their home planet. We see a possible connection to the Armorer's Leave by immediately getting ambushed in the Great Forge, the heart of the Mandalorian civilization. And we see Imperial Super Commandos come back.
Yeah. There was a lot that happened in this episode. And again, I know there's a lot of talk about how the show didn't really deserve to lead up to this because the show wasn't really plot driven. I mean, of this season anyway. And again, everything that has had man, I can't talk. That has happened. I think that's the best way to say it. Yeah. Throughout this entire season has led to this. There's certain missions. There are certain, small stories to the side that had to happen to lead up to this. And we'll talk more about Paz Vizsla's fate. Because there's the episode of where we see Din go with him and save his son, and that that makes us kind of relate to him more, like him more, and then it gets to this point. If we didn't have that episode, then
Paz has had so much this season.
Yes, he has had a lot.
But yeah, no, I think even if we've had story beats that have led to making this, I think it's very much another case of the pacing didn't work for it to do so. I mean, this episode was so jam-packed of everything. I mean, I could have had one episode of Mandalorian before this, and I feel like we could have gotten to the same place if it was just as jam-packed from the past 6 episodes this season that we've gotten. Yeah. I don't want to be a broken record, but I think how they had an ending in mind, but I don't think how they chose to go about reaching that ending worked. And I think they're getting a very public outcry in how they chose to get to this ending. But how they got there aside, right now it's really kicking on all cylinders, and it's kicking very well on all cylinders. We get Axe Wolves escaping through a small hole at the top of the purge, or at the top of the forge, sorry. We see Din turn to Grogu, keep up with me, because now Grogu can't fly. He's not in a hovering pram anymore. He can't go around with jetpacks as everyone else does. He is now a very grounded character, and has to be. And so seeing Din immediately say, that's how it has to be, jump ahead as they slowly push into more Imperial-looking areas. We see from the cave, we see them start retracing the steps we just saw Moff Gideon go through, and they get trapped in blast doors. And Moff Gideon comes down in his new Darth Maul armor. I think is the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, and I wish Hunter was here because I know him and I were talking about it. But that was a very interesting choice, and again, that's another kind of sus thing about the armor and having the horns on her helmet as Moff Gideon does. How funny would it be if somehow like the very last shot of this episode was like Darth Maul just walks up and we're like, wait, what? And then boom. It's like, wait, what? No way. But yeah.
Absolutely no way. Absolutely no way. But I mean, we also start getting answers of the Imperials why they're cloning. Or why Moff Gideon is, even though earlier he said my interest isn't in cloning. We see Moff Gideon is very interested in personal preservation and personal power. And that comes from learning about the Jedi, learning about the cloners, and learning about the Mandalorians, and turning it into his own personal weapon to use. Yeah. And the capture of Din, where Grogu watches.
I thought
Grogu get captured.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna take off his helmet. I really thought they were gonna take off his helmet right there. That's something I was waiting for. So I love Moff Gideon's armor, and I can already, I guarantee you someone is already working on it right now as we speak. I mean, someone is in their garage.
There's that one Moff Gideon builder who did both season 1 and season 2 CRLs, who looks very similar to Giancarlo, who's probably building it and will not stop.
He's got knee darts too.
Yeah.
Yep. He has the knee darts. He has the Beskar heart with the kind of white tape line from Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
He was also probably excited to finally get to have a helmet, because I know that's something that he wanted as well. So I'm glad that, he's able to live his dream and have a helmet now.
Giancarlo also keeping his cape and keeping it not like tossing it to the side like everyone else, but still having a very vertical flowing cape with the jetpack. So funny.
His chest plate is also Mandalorian as well.
Yep, it has the Boba Fett 2-bar lights, which is the first time we've seen lights in a Mandalorian chest plate in a long time. But yeah, so Din gets captured. We see Moff Gideon say, "Get the fleet ready." TIE fighters in their new kind of hanging like stalagmites. Can't remember the difference. But we see them hanging and get ready to go out. We see bombers prepare to go out, and they're going out to the fleet. And Moff Gideon thanks them for bringing them all so close. Yet again, Moff Gideon shows his methodical prowess in getting people to do what he wants. Almost always. And I really like this villain. I think this villain works very well for this story and continues to do so in being a smart Imperial villain.
We also don't know what planet he's from, because I just looked it up on Wikipedia. So maybe he was a Mandalorian and he kind of like lost his way, and then he, joined the Empire, and then he didn't, I could just maybe, because there has to be a connection. There has to be some type of connection between him and the Mandalorian people. I don't think it was just random where he's like, you know what? I want to take over Mandalore. I think there is some type of deep connection between him and the Mandalorian people and the planet itself. And I think they did something to him, and we'll find out later on. But I think there's a deeper connection than he just wants to take down the Mandalorian people.
Is it not a red visor? Whoever commented that. Sorry, I missed your name. I apologize.
Yes, mob rules.
I could have sworn it was. Yeah, no, it's a red visor. If you look at the shots of him walking forward, it's a slight tint, but it's a shiny black helmet with red on the upper cheek wells and then a red tinted visor. Yeah.
Oh, yep, yeah.
Very, very slight.
You have to like pause it, but yeah, you see it. Yep.
Hey, colored visors, those are fun. Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, Colin. I definitely got when he was talking like we got to get stuff from the cloners, from the Jedi, and yes, even the Mandalorian. Like he's very talking down on the Mandalorian, saying your planet's only good for resources. He obviously has a very big predisposition against this people. Yeah, I'm wondering if you're right. I'm wondering if there's something else we don't see that's why he's so against these people. Interesting. And right as they're starting to go, he's like, "Give me the Darksaber. Give me what's mine. Hand it over." Even though he was the person just last season that was like, you can't just give it to her. He wants it back, and with a cry of "This is the way," the Mandalorians make their escape. Bo goes to the back, cuts out a hole, and Paz
Very
Vizsla.
Qui-Gon-esque.
Yep, very, very Qui-Gon. Which I was wondering why she didn't cut it out then so they could go forward.
Right.
We see Paz
As did everyone, I think.
His final stand. Paz's final stand, melting his blaster with his final words of "This is the way." Staying behind as everyone else escapes, melting his blaster, killing every single Mandalorian super commander that they can throw at him.
The only thing that I was thinking about during the scene was I just bought his action figure like on the show floor. I was like, are you kidding me again? Come on, man.
Dude, I was thinking, fly up, go up. You've killed them, go up, leave.
And then we get something that was leaked a long time ago. But we finally get like the Praetorian Guards, which we first see in The Last Jedi, and these aren't the exact look of them, but they do have a Mandalorian look
off of concept art where they have the kind of Mandalorian T-visor but with the extra vertical bar. Very armor inspired. It's just very similar to the armor visor, having them much more geometric top with a bar sticking down much farther than other female Mandalorian designs.
There's a connection there, but these are the early stages of what we see in The Last Jedi.
Yep.
Which that would be a really cool tie-in, a very cool tie-in into the sequels. If we go and watch the sequels and be like, man, those are Mandalorians, or in some way.
What if the armor, with all the Beskar that she collected at the end of season 1, used that Beskar to trade with the Imperials? And that's how they got a lot of their Beskar. Now the Beskar may be coming from the Mandalorian planet. They are, there. But just wondering if that might be a connection.
I like where you're thinking.
Yeah.
Praetorian Guards with their awesome weapons just have a group powwow on Paz Vizsla. And we get a final shot of him laying down on the ground. Very Kuiil to me. We had that final shot in episode 7 of season 1 of Kuiil's deceased body smoking on the ground, and then we got that return with Paz.
We actually also got something very similar in the book of Boba Fett to the second to last episode, because that happened to Cobb Vanth as well.
Yep.
Because if he gets shot by Cad Bane.
Yeah, so a very common thing in the Mandalorian style of TV shows is the, precursor to the season finale is a character lying dead, smoking on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the end. Directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who's done an amazing job with. Let me think. I don't want to say this without backing it up, but in recent memory, all of his episodes I have very much enjoyed.
He is also doing the very last episode of this season as well.
Okay.
And I believe he's also going to have some involvement in Ahsoka.
He's going to be a director.
He's a producer.
He's also directing, right?
Yep. So he directed Chapter 2, The Child, in season 1. He directed the Prisoner episode in season 1. He directed The Believer, The Apostate, and then he also directed a lot of episodes this season. Or no, he didn't. He executive produced. This is his first directing of this season. But all of his other ones have been absolute bangers. Oh wait, no, I'm so wrong. He directed the first episode of this season.
Yeah,
The Apostate.
1, 7, and 8. Yeah.
Yep, which is pretty good. But I absolutely loved his The Child, The Prisoner, The Believer. loved those episodes. So
Yeah.
seeing him come back with such fervor was very nice. But yeah, so I mean, this episode on a whole, what do you guys rate it?
I loved it. I'm giving it a solid 8. I can't wait until the next one. I can't wait until the final episode because that one's gonna be a lot of mixed emotions, because after that we have the story of Ahsoka, and that's not really gonna involve Mando. And we also don't know what's gonna happen to Din Djarin. We don't know what's gonna be the involvement of Moff Gideon after this. Like we really don't know. We really don't know anything. And I think that's something I'm super excited about. But
I want to give it a rating about an 8.9.
oh, okay.
Oh,
really,
wow,
really
that's
good.
high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's high praise, David.
Yeah, very high praise. Yeah, just the cinematic quality was great. The tie back to puppetry, CGI, the moodiness that we got in the beginning, very Blade Runner-esque. Seeing all those Mandalorians in battle, flying away from that skiff, seeing the huge creature, it was all kind of quintessential Star Wars for me. And more story, plot movement, more character development, seeing Din get taken away, very Empire Strikes Back. Seeing the new mech suit introduced to for Grogu to use here on out. I think that's going to play a huge part next episode. And being back on Mandalore, I mean, man, it ties together every major phase of Star Wars, it feels like, and even getting sequel trilogy stuff with the Praetorian Guard. I mean, we hit like every spot in Star Wars we could possibly hit, really. So that's why I give it a high rating.
Yeah. To me, this episode is standing alone. I say this episode's like 7.5, 8. I think in the course of the entire season, however, it does stand much lower just because I feel as a season, this season, The Mandalorian hasn't stood that well on its own 2 feet. But rating wise, everywhere, this episode seems to be doing very well. On IMDb, it is the first 9-point blank episode this season of The Mandalorian, which is great to see again. I mean, season 2 had 1, 2, 3, 3 or 4 9-point something episodes. Everything was in the 8s to the 9s, with only one being a high 7. And this one's been a lot of 7s. Last week was a 6.4 consensus rating. So seeing the ratings come up on this one, I'm hoping they're able to keep that momentum into next week.
Yeah. Moff Gideon's reintroduction.
Yeah.
Thrawn stuff. Stuff from the EU.
Yep, the cloning vats.
Right? It hit all quadrants, man. They touched on everything.
It felt much more classic Mandalorian, with Moff Gideon, with the Return to Mandalore, with Din building and grief and everything. It felt very. It's weird saying the word classic because this show has only been airing for a few years, but it did feel. It felt like a return to form.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And if this, I mean, honestly, I think nothing hypes me up more on a Star Wars level than having all those announcements, everything, and then being like, here's a new episode of The Mandalorian. And then not only that, but you've got the season finale next week. And then the week after that, you have the release of Jedi Survivor, and then you have May 4th. And on May 4th, you got Visions Volume 2, you have the Young Jedi Adventures, and then in August you have Ahsoka, and then the following Skeleton Crew, Acolyte,
Andor season 2.
So
stoked for.
There's so much. Yeah. Man, so much to look forward to. And this is like the perfect time to be a Star Wars fan. I can't even imagine.
FPS game.
Yeah,
that may be.
That might come out next year. They really didn't talk about any games at
no, it was
Celebration.
just the Cameron Monaghan interview about Survivor, but there wasn't the EA panel. There wasn't.
Nope, nothing at all. And that's something that the other Josh and I were hoping that they would do something big, but they just did that small thing with, and that wasn't even on the schedule because I looked and we didn't see anything on the schedule like revolving around that, like of him coming to the live stage. So I think that was random, and so.
So I just did a quick search on that FPS game for any recent news. Apparently, according to a LinkedIn job post, the FPS game is inspired by the old classics like Star Wars Dark Forces, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, and it will be utilizing Unreal Engine 5.
Ooh.
So, of course, I'm very hoping for Republic Commando 2 or Republic Commando redo or something Republic Commando.
So as I'm just letting you know from the Bad Batch trailer, I did see Republic Commandos, but I thought you were like, looking specifically for.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, we
Delta
saw
Squad.
Republic Commandos in the season 2 trailer, and how much we actually see of them.
Right. So I was like, all I saw was Scorch, and again, I was like, oh, okay. If we end up getting Delta Squad, I'll be happy for
if there's a
all y'all.
If there's a green commando, I hope they treat him well.
Yeah,
treat him well. But out of everything Star Wars Celebration, what was your guys' favorite thing that they dropped? Either favorite trailer or thing you're most excited for.
Okay, this is something that no one's really talking about, but I think I was the only person that was really excited in the room because I looked around and David and Josh were like, "Oh, okay," but it was the freaking trailer for Indiana Jones 5, and then they showed us like a full scene, and I was like, "Let's go!" And I looked at David, and then he was just like, "Oh," okay. And I was like, "Come on, man! Like." Where's the hype? I was so pumped. I was also wearing my Indiana Jones hat that day too, so I was like, nice. But yeah, no, that was really cool. I think my favorite moment out of everything, from the Lucasfilm panel was probably the stuff for Acolyte. That got me really really excited of just seeing all the lightsabers and of yes, and I'm also happy for Jonas. He's so deserves
so incredibly happy for Jonas.
Yeah, to like just keep being part of Star Wars, and the fact that like he's playing something familiar but different at the same time, and the whole cast was so excited.
Yeah, having a character you can call his, going back to Jonas, like he's a great Chewbacca. Loved him in Solo. Loved the kind of assurance of Han and Chewbacca with Jonas and Alden, but having a Wookiee where Jonas can really say, "That's my Wookiee.
Yes,
that's my character."
Yep,
and he's a Jedi Master.
Yeah, Jedi Wookiee, like that's just good for him. Although I don't think any Wookiee lightsaber can ever be topped. I don't think any lightsaber can be topped by then Gunji's lightsaber.
I also think something that's great is that we're also getting live action High Republic. Like that's huge because not everyone reads the books, not everyone reads the comics, but I think once the show comes out, then people are gonna like, okay, wait, so and so was in the books and they're in the show. I should probably go backtrack and check out the books, and I think that's what's gonna happen. But I've been waiting for this, because as much as I love reading, I don't always have the patience to do that. So it's gonna be awesome to see that story brought to life on the screen. And jumping into an era that we've never, really talked about before in live action is great. And we're also kind of getting a sneak peek of that in Jedi Survivor, because it looks like one of the main antagonists of the game is a High Republic Jedi that was, that was kind of kept away from the galaxy for a very long time. So that character's story will be told, and that's going to have a tie-in into the High Republic. But I think the Acolyte looks great. I'm excited for Skeleton Crew, which is the second most expensive budget they've ever used for a TV show, which is huge. And from the trailer that we got, I can see why. I can definitely see why. That is going to have like the E.T. Goonies vibe, and I think David knows this, but that's the description that I was hoping that they would officially say. And Kathleen Kennedy said that. And that made me so happy because we really haven't had a Star Wars project like that. So I'm super, super excited to have that vibe that it's like I'm putting in an old copy of a VHS and just putting in the VCR and then just waking up on Saturday morning. Like that's the type of show that I want for Star Wars. And we're getting that with this. So that's awesome. And then we also got a kid version of the Max Rebo species. Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, I love the Orthlins. They're amazing. I'm so glad that they're getting more representation. So.
Yeah, I bet you are.
And I would also like to point out that in the trailer, the Ortholin had all 4 limbs. He had 2 legs and 2 arms. So yeah.
Really cool.
Well, yeah.
David, what about you? What was favorite takeaway?
Getting into that Lucasfilm Showcase panel, I mean, that is what Celebration is to me. Getting into those panels, getting all that breaking news, all the footage. It seems like it's there's never going to be a time where they don't bring footage. It's kind of funny when you watch any big panel for anything, any franchise.
Yeah.
They always end it with, "We brought something for you," and just about everyone that hit the stage said, "We brought a little thing for you." And of course, it was always a trailer, which was fantastic.
They weren't streaming that live, right? Like
No,
okay,
no one
cool.
saw it, man. It was just us, Colin.
Oh, man.
Which we are against as the Star Wars Stuff podcast. We think that the general public should be able to get these things. Maybe just delay it like minutes or hours, or maybe.
I understand the whole trailer thing of not showing like the public the trailer, but showing them the actual panel, that's different. I think is like actually showing the public them talking about it is fine. But if you would show everyone what people were getting at the actual panel, including the trailers and everything, that would kind of take the purpose away of going to Celebration. People wouldn't have to pay a bunch of money to go just to go to a panel.
I think officially releasing stills, maybe like having a press release, like this is the show and it has like one promo image, but you still had the all you guys get to see the trailer, and that's never taken away from you.
There also were some panels where they actually did do the live stream, like they did it for the Bad Batch. They did not show the trailer to the public, but they showed the actual like panel as it was live streaming, right? Because
I think so.
Yeah,
I was doing homework at the time, so I was able to watch.
Because I was talking with our friend Mike, all Star Wars, and he said that they were doing a live stream for that. So like cool. And then they also did that for Visions, I think, as well. But then they just like didn't like show like the actual like episode and stuff. But yeah, no. Yeah, man. Star Wars.
A lot of Star Wars.
They should be airing all this stuff to the public. I mean, even if they just have like a little delay. And if not even that, just show it to everyone at Celebration. Everyone paid money for the badges.
Yeah.
Traveled long distances in some cases. I mean, it's really kind of a disconnect with the fans in that way. And Star Wars does such a great has a very great relationship, I think, with the fans. With our podcast, even we use their name on our podcast, and they've never told us anything about that. We've used copyrighted music. We've had our logo on shirts that we've given away, sold, all of our swag. I mean, you can't say that for a lot of other franchises. Like you look at Star Trek. I mean, that's very, very contentious with their fans.
You'd be shot down.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just something they have to fix. It looks like we might be in for a really good course correction with stuff that they're probably not doing the best they can do, like with releasing a movie every year. But I think we really think that should be a thing. It should be probably Christmas time. But we'll see.
Yeah. I think that's everything, Josh. You have any final words?
Republic Commando, Vodeon should be getting it has a rescore from the original composer. It happened
Okay, man.
like 3 years
Okay.
ago. That's got to come back somehow.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
Probably will.
It probably will. Oh.
Whoa, what is that?
Lego.
Tonwee's here.
Tonwee's here.
All right. Yeah, with that, that is our breakdown. Thank you so much, Josh, for leading this podcast. And you have a lot of great insight into all these episodes. And thanks to Colin as well. He just got off the plane from London. And I've had a full night of sleep, which was great. Haven't had one of those in a long time.
Guess who's gonna wake up at 5 a.m. Let's go, bro. Let's go.
Man.
Dude, sounds like a personal problem.
You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong.
And thanks for everyone who commented. Derpy, Maka, Mob Rules. Thank you for all your love and support. A lot of those people are patrons. So till next time, I'm about to upload a boatload of episodes that we recorded at Star Wars Celebration London. And I'll probably do some other recordings for Patreon as well, kind of detailing the trip, all the outside factors and situations outside of Celebration. So that should be a lot of fun. And if you want to join our Patreon, you can. You can find us on Patreon at, trying to remember here, trying to find the tag. Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. And of course, Instagram. We all know Colin runs that. Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're on Twitter as well at Stuff Pod. Of course, Facebook page, Facebook group. Go to Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. Write a review. You can go to Spotify and rate us there as well. And also Star Wars Stuff, actually StuffPodcastNetwork.com. You can find us there. Also on Twitch. You can find us on Twitch Gaming at Star Wars Stuff Gaming.
We will be playing Jedi Survivor nonstop until we beat it. So just kind of tune out, like just go and tune in for the entire day, and we'll probably be halfway through the game.
Hey, I'll join you on the 29th for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notify button. So we're trying to get, I know we don't have the biggest YouTube presence. It's mostly audio that we get all of our kind of listeners from, but
that's going to change. That's going to change because happy news is that Hunter Smoke is officially joining our team, and we are going to be doing a lot more on YouTube.
Congratulations to Hunter.
Yes. So stay tuned for that. We have a lot in the works, but we're very excited about that.
So yeah, catch us there as well. So for Josh, Colin, my name's David. May the Force be with you.
Always. Max Rebo lives till the squad doesn't exist.